was always quite into having my own style, I guess. I didn't actually particularly like sewing, but I liked what you could do with it. I always had something quite different and new, and I sort of liked that. It just became very much what I did, and so I went into fashion. When I was 15, I used to go and buy fabric in the daytime with my pocket money and then make something in the afternoon and then wear it out in the evening. I was always really observant about how people looked, what they wore, how they expressed themselves. Hence, I became a new romantic. There was Steve Strange and Boy George and Spandau Ballet. We were the Blitz kids. It was quite influential at the time, and we all went on to do something quite creative with their lives. It was a great time to be a fashion student. I just slowly became aware through costume houses there was the whole side of design that I didn't really know about. I did realise I love the narrative. I like the fact that you use costumes to tell a story and to create character. And the more I did it, the more I realised that's something that I really, really enjoyed. You know the story, you know what they're doing, you know what their relationships are. You need to show that somehow in cloth. In a period piece, you can look at reference. What did they wear in Holland in Blood? You have the evidence, and then you can play within that. Game of Thrones is much harder in a way because you have to make it up. I just look all the time, even if I'm not working on something. I'll make scrapbooks. When I see an image, I'll just stick it in like a Cersei file or whatever, and I'll just keep putting things in. It just might be a texture. So when it comes around to starting a game, I'll have a little sort of file of ideas which just might influence the way it goes. And it often happens, I go, God, I forgot about that. That would be quite an interesting way. But also what you've done before sort of informs you where you need to go. Designing a series like this, first it has to come from a script that guides you. Then you start building up a picture of how this person lives and what influences them. And so if they're on the coast, they can trade and they can buy and they can become much more flamboyant. There's competition because there's more than one armourer or more than one dressmaker. It's Winterfell. What do people do in the evenings? Well, they probably embroider. You have to balance that with the other characters around them and consider the set, colours, and it just evolves. I enjoyed doing the four women very much. Arya and Dany and Sansa and Cersei, because they've just really become very strong. I like the initial designing and planning and coming up with the sort of ideas for the characters, working as a team to make that happen. When you finish a film or a TV series or something, that's it, that's your body of work. You feel like you've really contributed something.
Hey YouTubers, red alert, new Game of Thrones, let's break it down. There is a new round of the giveaways for the HBO Now subscription. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. So the really cool thing here is that they talk about how they tell the story of Game of Thrones with the clothing. It's got some of the best costumes of any TV show anywhere in the world, but it's all customized for each of the characters. So like she singles out Cersei, Sansa, Daenerys, how they've slowly risen to power, the way they wear clothing changes. Like if you have access to certain materials, you'll just make nicer, more flamboyant things. Cersei is queen now, so obviously there's the Queen's Guard, all their armor has changed, the Mountain is the most visible example of that. I love the way that you see him without his helmet on here, so it just makes you wonder with morbid curiosity whether or not they're going to show him in the light of day without that helmet on. I feel like he's scarier with it on, but you get a brief look at him when he's going in with Septa Unella, like he slowly takes it off and then the camera pans away and it's really dark, so you can't really tell. You see now that Daenerys has come back to Dragonstone, she's wearing Targaryen colors, everyone around her. You see Tyrion walking on the beach here after they land. You also saw him in the previous promo with a slightly different costume. So all the characters, with a few exceptions, get a couple big costume changes. Sansa looks like she's going to be wearing super dark black for most of the season. I love the stuff that she's in, and it just implies that she's headed in a darker direction. They might not be able to do Lady Stoneheart on the TV show, but they're definitely going to push Sansa in that direction. Even Jaime has a slightly different outfit on. I couldn't tell if him standing here with these suspenders and that weird neck piece was just waiting between shots and these are his plain clothes, or if he's actually wearing this underneath his armor and he's just standing around talking to Cersei, because you see her in this behind the scenes footage just walking around the map room with the camera rolling on her, with this other person here still trying to complete the rest of this big floor map for her. You get more up-close shots of her engraving, of the Lannister gear, the old Kingsguard gear. They even show you a lot of up-close shots of Littlefinger's outfit with the sigil of the Mockingbird. That's just the sigil of his house, just like the Starks have the direwolf on all their clothing. You see Sophie Turner looking like she's throwing a snowball at someone. It's hard to tell if the camera's on here or if this is between shots and she's just having fun. Because like you see the Hound here grab a handful of fake snow and throw it, just laughing like, oh yeah, that is definitely not happening on camera. Just looking at the Hound, this is his default face right here. Just that stank face like he isn't going to take anybody's shit. And speaking of which too, Sir Davos, who's always so serious, you see him laughing here between takes just looking at that Canon camera, did not know that they sold Canon cameras up in the north during that period. But you see more of Arya that looks like she's still relatively close to the twins. Most of this greenery, if she was closer to Winterfell, would be covered with snow. It'd be way more sparse. It's way too nice looking. Even where Daenerys is here, there's a lot of greenery too. I wonder what this is going to look like in the final version of the film. There isn't a whole lot of stuff that grows at Dragonstone, but obviously because we're going to be spending so much time there, we'll see a lot more parts of the island that we haven't seen before. But like you see Tyrion walking out here on this big field, so there is some greenery. It's not just all black rock. You get a better look of her walking around the map table, and then one of my favorite behind the scenes shots here is of her sitting on the throne with this black rock around here, like they've carved it into the rock here. This is one of the only rooms that we haven't seen in Dragonstone before. We've been down to the dungeons, we've been to the living quarters, we've been to the map table room, but we haven't ever been in the throne room. Maybe Stannis just didn't care to sit there, but it sounded like he was more comfortable around that table too, just because most of the time we saw him there, those scenes were him planning during the War of the Five Kings. So it's not like he had much cause to hold court in a throne room the way that Cersei would at King's Landing. But you see Sansa down in the crypts of Winterfell. She spent a lot of time down there during season 5 just because she'd been gone for so long. It's a very important place for her family, but it's also a place to get away from Ramsay. I don't think we ever saw Ramsay down in the crypts. You get a shot of Littlefinger that looks like he's sneaking around at Winterfell. I love how he always looks so shady. But you get a better shot of the little bear. You see Brienne in furs. And then if I'm not mistaken, this actually looks like Jon Snow is actually on that same plane where Tyrion is looking at the dragon rise up. This might be where he's actually at Dragonstone. So let me know, it's kind of hard to tell. Where do you think that Jon Snow is standing right here? It could be outside of Winterfell. There is grass that grows near Winterfell, but it's kind of hard to tell because it's so out of focus in the background. But like he's one of the few characters that's not going to get that many costume changes aside from the wildling gear that you see him in later in the trailer. So like they show a couple of the other costumes. They show some of the wildling costumes that they're building. You see a lot of green Tyrell colors. They're going to be fighting with Daenerys' army. But aside from the quick shot of Theon and then Cersei walking around in her inner chambers, there's not a whole lot else here. But one of the other coolest things is Samwell inside the Citadel. You can see he's clearly reaching for a book really high up on a shelf, and you can spot some of the green screen. Because the Citadel is this huge high tower. Obviously they're not all going to build that for Game of Thrones, so they just build these big bookshelves and they just fill the rest out with CG. But let me know right now, which set are you most excited to go to? Obviously, we're going to see a whole bunch more of the Citadel than we've seen before, but I feel like the big reveal this season is going to be Dragonstone. Just because Daenerys is there, they're going to be filming it in so many different ways. We've seen King's Landing for the last 6 seasons. We've seen a lot of Winterfell for the last 6 seasons, but we've really only seen a couple of the big rooms in Dragonstone, and it is a really big castle. We haven't even seen where the dragons live beneath the cliffs. Leave all your requests for Game of Thrones bonus videos in the comments below. We're going to get another big trailer in the next couple weeks, and then we'll probably get more of these behind the scenes in between that. So there'll be a lot more promos, a lot more footage dropping between now and the actual season coming. So new Game of Thrones posting later this week. I'll say congratulations to the latest giveaway winner. Jackie Porter is. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. While you wait for everything, you can click here for my Tyrion video, and you can click here for all my other promo videos. Thank you so much for watching. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.